Samantha Power lauds new government's commitment to reconciliation.
2 copies of the 2016 budget presented to MPs. Parliament flares up.
JVP to oppose budget. Group of UPFA MPs to meet the President for talks.
Voice Against Corruption staged demonstration in Colombo demanding punishment for large-scale fraudsters.
Hello, good evening and welcome. This is Primetime News coming to you live from News1st Centre in Colombo. Good evening, Florin.
Good evening, Nadim, and a very good evening to all our viewers from here at home and across the globe. Let's start off with a look at tonight's top story. On to your top story tonight, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Samantha Power has commended the commitment of the Sri Lankan government in their efforts in creating sustainable reconciliation during the past 10 months. The visiting ambassador made this statement when she called on President Maithripala Sirisena at the Presidential Secretariat today.
Issuing a communique, the President's media unit said that Ambassador Samantha Power had commended President Maithripala Sirisena in his efforts in giving up his powers while the leaders of Asia and Africa are trying to centralize the power in their hands, and that this is a worthy example for the world leaders. Speaking further, she said that the new government is performing in more trustworthy and acceptable manner in implementing the process of reconciliation and suggested that the relationship between the officials and the institutions who are implementing this program be broadened. Ambassador Samantha Power also commended the transformations that have been made in the country and stated that the country is gaining many economic benefits through these changes. In response, President Maithripala Sirisena had explained to the visiting ambassador on the progress the government has made over the past 10 months in terms of ensuring freedom, strengthening democracy and eliminating poverty. Meanwhile, President Maithripala Sirisena also met with the British High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, James Torres, ahead of his participation at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting 2015. The meeting was held at the official residence of the British High Commissioner this morning. President Sirisena is to hand over his position of the chairman of the Commonwealth to the President of Malta, the host nation of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. To mark his last week as Commonwealth Chair in office before he departs to Chogum 2015 in Malta, the President planted a nar tree in the garden of the Westminster House located in Colombo.
Your chairmanship of the Commonwealth has given us an opportunity as two nations with long shared histories to celebrate that history and to celebrate and take forward the deepening of historical close links between our countries. And I think that the planting of a tree today is also an opportunity, a reminder for us of the importance of the commitment to which both our countries are committed to seek an ambitious outcome in Paris and to seek an outcome, to seek international agreement on conclusions that seek to ensure that we will control the increase in the world's temperature to less than 2 degrees.
Parliament was adjourned for 10 minutes today after tensions flared when MP Dinesh Gunawardena pointed out a discrepancy in that 2 copies of the 2016 budget proposal had been presented to the members.
It is the responsibility of the Finance Minister to explain to this House as to what the difference is between the book which was presented and this book which has been presented today.
These are useless arguments. This is a waste of valuable time in Parliament. This is what they always do. Honourable Speaker, there aren't 2 budgets as they are saying.
Are these 2 books the same, and does it contain the same content? Were we given an extra book? No.
These are arguments of little children.
When we raise this issue, the Honourable Leader of the House says that we are like little children. Honestly, Honourable Speaker, that is wrong. We are raising a fair question. We realize who the child here is after the budget proposal was read out like a Montessori child who read a book from the 7th grade. We saw the difficulty, so we have identified who the child is. So please do not point fingers at us, calling us children.
They are saying that there is a change in this. I would like to ask what the change is.
He's shouting.
Honourable Leader of the House, this problem would be over if you explain the reason for presenting two books.
The subject minister is not in parliament and neither is the deputy minister. If you can't, at the very least, they should come forward and explain what has happened. If this book was distributed by the finance ministry today, then this is a new book. Then it does not become the book which was distributed previously. So, Honourable Speaker, how can we take this issue up for debate?
You don't know what you're saying. No, these are the same one.
When Parliament resumed, an explanation was made to the House on the issue.
5 sections which were read out by the finance minister were not included in the Sinhala copy. So this is rectified and then presented. That is all.
What has happened was that they were printing this book till 11:30 this morning, and at 5:30 this morning one of the machines had malfunctioned and 3 pages were entangled. And as per the practices of the Finance Ministry, every word which was read out in Parliament must be included. At that instance, even the Secretary was informed that this error had been caused to around 50 such books. Then I was asked if a new book should be printed and distributed, and I said yes, go ahead. This was the misunderstanding that took place today. So this new book was presented because of the printing error between pages 116 and 121. There weren't any changes made. This was a mistake on the part of the Finance Ministry, not the Parliament nor the Chief Whip. This was done merely to distribute a complete document to this House, not for any other intention.
Honourable Speaker, we are thankful to the Finance Minister for his explanation, but I do require another explanation from the Minister. Over the past few days, all of us admitted the fact that this budget will allocate the largest sum of money for the development of the education sector in the history of our country. However, the real story here is that the largest distortion of numbers has been made like no other instance in our history. The services sector in recurrent expenditure has been increased by 4,071%. So what you told the country was that you spent a sum of 121 billion rupees for education. However, not a single estimate specifies as to how this 121 billion is being spent.
There are 11,000 schools and not a cent has been spent on capital expenditure. That is why we have mentioned the total value of all the land and buildings, and this is the value for the health sector. That has been listed in the appropriation account.
This is an amazing calculation. We allocate funds for a ministry stating the capital and recurrent expenditure. But then we calculate the value of the buildings under the ministry and present that as the expenditure on education. Then we say that the expenditure on education has increased. This calculation is truly amazing. Usually in a country, when you consider GDP and other factors, we calculate the value of capital reserves. That is how we determine how much capital and labour contributed to GDP. This is the capital stock. Thus far in our country, the government did not make this calculation. Now, for the first time, the Finance Minister has undertaken this calculation in the education and health sectors. This is a procedure followed in all developed countries.
Right?
There is no problem with calculating the government's capital, but do not add this calculation to the amount that you are spending on education for the year 2016.
I accept the point that was raised by the minister. But the problem is, how can you say you are spending 121 billion more on education? No, it has not been allocated. That is a lie.
We have 112 billion rupees to spend on it, that is certain.
Speaking at a seminar on the 2016 budget held in Colombo today, Minister Ravi Karnanayake expressed these views on the concessions that have been granted.
Nirodha saha bicycle walta
They say that we had imposed an emissions tax of 5,000 rupees for three-wheelers and motorcycles. Tell me where that has been mentioned. Since the opposition cannot find any mistakes, they are creating mistakes. This only applies to four-wheeled vehicles. The price of goods increased as a result of import prices increasing due to the depreciation of the rupee. We have corrected that. The minister added later that a decision had been made to expedite the granting of concessions to the people. The prices of all goods must be reduced immediately. The President and the Prime Minister informed me that these concessions must reach the people on the 20th and not on the 21st. So I call on everyone to please ensure that these concessions are granted to the innocent consumers immediately. The Consumer Affairs Authority is bound to enforce this. This will not affect water, electricity and telecom charges either. All the taxes are on the companies and not on the consumers.
The 2016 budget has not succeeded in pleasing all parties, as is made evident by these views expressed by several opposition politicos.
When the UNP was in the opposition, they said that they will leave no room for casinos. But when they came into power, they did not take measures to stop casinos, but instead they legalized casinos and made amendments to the taxes imposed. They are attempting to create a break the bank's economy. This will result in massive destruction to the villagers. That is the core of this budget.
They have removed all taxes imposed on the elite and handed it over to the middle class. This is a neoliberal budget in its truest sense. The budget is formulated by a cartel of four people, and all he does is read it in Parliament. Who are the ones involved in the making of the budget? It's Ranil Wickramasinghe, Malik Samaravikrama, Charita Ratwatta and Bhaskara Lingam.
This is a voucher-oriented economy because vouchers are used for everything. The ones who raised their hands and agreed should remember to bring a bigger bundle of papers when they go to the villages.
This is not a budget that will fulfill the needs of the working people. All we say is that the ones who collaborated with the UNP after winning the election on the Beetle Leaf ticket must come out after defeating the budget. There are no second thoughts. The JVP MPs will definitely use their vote against the budget.
මඩට අදිනකොට එලහරක නිතරම ගොඩට අදිනකොට මේක යාදයක නොරතරත එකට පෑහීමක් නැත කියන එක තුල.
Do you know how much of a dispute the budget has created within the cabinet? My team and I will have to hold talks with the president to make amendments to the budget.
අපි අපේ ජනාධිපතිතුමා හම්බ වෙන මේ ටික වෙනස් කරගන්න.
The SLFP parliamentary group convened under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena this evening.
SLFP MPs from both the government and the opposition were present at this meeting, which was held at the Presidential Secretariat. The meeting focused on three primary points, namely supporting the budget, considering the support of ministers and MPs from the party in distributing provisions made through the budget at the rural level, and providing MPs with the necessary facilities to serve the people.
Clarifications were made regarding taking forward the decisions made by the SLFP, and we also spoke about supporting the budget. He also made clarifications regarding SLFP MPs' participation in government commission development projects. We have 49 members in the opposition. We asked whether the opposition members could hold talks with the president to tell him about our decision. The president asked us to hold talks with three ministers since he will be flying overseas. I said no in reply. I told him that we need to hold talks with him alone in order to inform him of our stance on whether or not our vote will be for or against the budget. Thereafter, he gave us an appointment at 11 a.m. tomorrow. The talks were mainly on granting support for the budget. The opposition requested an appointment to meet him, and they were given one in the morning.
Welcome back. The Voice Against Corruption movement staged a demonstration in Colombo today demanding punishment for large-scale fraudsters responsible for crimes including the abuse of state property. The protest march commenced near the technical junction in Maradana.
The demonstration was held under the theme "No Deals Punish the Corrupt." University professors, artists, trade unions, political party representatives and various other organizations participated in this demonstration. The protesters reached the Fort railway station in procession and staged a rally. The wealth belongs to the people of this country. What did they do to the people's wealth? Mr. Rajapaksa, his family and a cartel that formed around his family stole billions and billions from this wealth. In addition to this, there was a group of business racketeers who formulated the deals that enabled them to steal this wealth. A considerable portion of this political class has joined the Maitri-Ranil partnership today. Gradually, they are starting to say, let's forget about the past, let's rebuild. Although they may be prepared to forget the past, neither the JVP nor anyone else on this stage is prepared to forget the past. It is the past that guided the people of this country. The government commenced the 100 days with a mess. Society has identified the central bank bond scam as one of the most serious financial scams in the country's history. We lodged complaints about this. Inquiries were made, but we did not see the law being enforced with regard to the central bank bond scam. As the Voice Against Corruption, we lodged 171 complaints during the 100 days. The FCID has completed inquiries into about 23 of the 171 complaints and the files are lying on the desk. The director is not acting on it because the IGP has addressed a letter to the director informing him not to proceed with legal action without informing him. We will not be silent. We will not stop this battle. We will forge ahead until the corrupt are punished.
Former External Affairs Minister Professor G.L. Pires was summoned to the Financial Crimes Investigation Division today.
Police media spokesperson SP Ruwan Gunasekara said that the former minister was summoned to the FCID today in order to obtain a statement for an alleged incident where officials in the Foreign Service were utilized for political activities. These are not fair investigations. This is a political program which is in effect which uses means of intimidation to silence another. In which country does a foreign minister approve leave to a particular ambassador? All of these administration activities are handled by the secretary. If a foreign minister looks into these matters personally, then I do not think he would have time for anything else.
The visiting US ambassador to the UN, Samantha Power, met with high-ranking government and opposition figures today.
The US ambassador to the UN met with senior government members led by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and Foreign Minister Mangala Samaraweera at Temple Trees this evening. Samantha Power also met with opposition leader R. Sampadan at the official residence of the US ambassador to Sri Lanka.
We discussed very comprehensively all issues, including current issues, the implementation of the UN Human Rights Council resolution, the question of a political solution. Everything was fully discussed. It was a satisfactory meeting, and it is our expectation that further efforts will result in our moving towards Sri Lanka being a peaceful, progressive, prosperous country.
Samantha Power also participated in a conversation with youth representatives which was held under the title Discussion with Ambassador Power in Colombo this evening.
While in many parts of the world, girls still lag behind boys in secondary education, in Sri Lanka, girls actually outnumber boys. In universities, girls make up 60% of undergraduates. And yet, can you all guess, or do you know, what proportion of members of Sri Lanka's parliament are women? Any guesses? It's the guy in the front row who knows that. 5%. Having women in leadership positions is not only intrinsically valuable, it is critically important to the future of your country. And I know that at times it can feel as though the change is not coming fast enough. And to real reformers, it always seems like change is too slow. It is what will help you demand and ultimately succeed in attaining the change that you and your country so need.
A man was arrested by police officers at the Waligama bus stop today. A bystander captured the moment that the arrest was made on a mobile phone camera. Let's take a look at what transpired. Now, when News First made inquiries from police media spokesperson ASP Rowan Gunasekara, he said that the individual in question has several cases against him in the courts and that he had been released on bail on a previous occasion after being taken into custody.
Meanwhile, Minister Sajith Premadasa opened a drinking water scheme in Gonnaruwa Hambantota today.
That the new water scheme will fulfill the drinking water needs of 3,000 families in 8 Gram Nilidhari divisions in the Hambantota administrative division.
සිරස ගම්මැද්ද වැඩසටහන තුලින් මට මතකයි මේ ප්‍රදේශයේ සහෝදර මහත්මයෙක්
I remember how a brother from this area came to the Sirasa Gam at the program with a bottle of water and spoke with agitation, saying this is the water they have to drink. Elalla, Katanna, Gannoruwa, Tammannawa, Bandagiriya, Julgamuwa East, Yahangala West. More than 300 families from these 8 divisions clamoured for drinking water through the Gam at the program on Sirasa. I take pride in reminding you that, in response to the request made by me, the Government of Good Governance has allocated a sum of 214,900,000 rupees for this program in order to quench your thirst. I express my gratitude and appreciation to the Sirasa Media Network for creating such an important program.
වැඩගත් වැඩසටහනක් නිර්මාණය කිරීම ගැන සිරස මාධ්‍ය ජාලයට මගේ ස්තුතිය සහ ප්‍රණාමය පුද කර සිටිනවා.
The engineering faculty of the University of Jaffna was declared open in Kilinochchi yesterday under the auspices of Minister of University Education and Highways, Lakshman Kiriyalla.
We must learn from these mistakes. Why did it take 35 years? Suppose if the university had been started in 79, this place would have been so highly developed. But we were not able to do so because of the mistakes made by everybody. So we had to learn the lessons of history and go forward. We will give full autonomy to the University Council to run the affairs of the university. We will not interfere. That's the policy of the new government.
We cannot increase the intake to the universities in technology or engineering or medicine if we do not increase the number of students who are opting to follow those streams, science streams, math streams and technology streams in the general education system. The higher education ministry and the university system is prepared to increase the access for technology stream.
Meanwhile, another hostel complex attached to the Vavuniya campus, which is a part of the Jaffna University, was also opened yesterday.
Let's take a brief look at more local news.
The Inter-University Students' Federation, or the IUSF, commenced a protest march in Peradeniya today in opposition to the privatization of education. We saw recently the attempt to initiate private universities. A circular was produced to legalize the collection of money from schools, and we also noticed a number of policies that were presented in this year's budget to privatize education. We have organized this protest march to oppose such policies. The protest march is scheduled to reach Colombo on the 20th of December. The body of the woman who went missing 3 days ago in the Kaluabe area in Galinbindu River was found this morning. The police media spokesperson said the body of the 49-year-old mother of two was found 500 meters away from her residence. Dilini Nilmini, the sister of Samantha Kumara alias Vele Sudha, who is also in custody on charges of possession of narcotics, was produced before the Maliga Kanda Magistrates Court today. The court ordered that the government analyst report on the narcotics be produced during the next court hearing. Two unidentified armed individuals had broken into a restaurant in Yakkala last evening, where they had threatened the restaurant manager and stolen a sum of money. The police are yet to identify the suspects.
The Central Province emerged victorious in both the men's and women's finals of the hockey tournaments of the National Games held today.
The men's final of the hockey leg of the National Games was held at the Reed Avenue synthetic turf in Colombo today, with the Central Province team overcoming their Western Province opponents. The scoreline at the final whistle read 2-1 in favour of the Central Province team. Teams from 7 provinces took part in the women's tournament, which also saw the Central and Western Province teams going through to the finals. The women from the Central Province put on a dominant performance in the final, scoring 7 goals and maintaining a clean sheet.
Well, that's a wrap of tonight's edition of Primetime News. For the News1st team, I am Florin Rajendran.
And I'm Nadim Majid. Join us again tomorrow, same time on MTV, Shakti TV and News1st.lk. Good night and good night.